No, sir. हो गया वो जरा फाइल मुन्ना का है जरा फाइल दो फाइल बैग में हो हाँ यस अब पूरी निकाल लो
We can wait for Madam.
Yes, sir. आप डाइटिंग दे दीजिए ना लॉगिन करना है लॉगिन पासवर्ड है ना उसमें हाँ जी मैडम को
ये ऑन है गुड मॉर्निंग we are going to start the inaugural session. Yeah.
Recording in progress.
I'm sorry that we have become late in starting the session due to certain unavoidable circumstances. Delhi is a place where in morning and evening there are a lot of traffic on the roads and sometimes the place is dying. Professor Kapur Shankardass, she is on the way and she has to preside over the session. Professor Rajesh Misra is here and Professor Natalia Velikaya, उसका वो काम करना उसका आउटलुक प्रोफेसर नटालिया वेलिकाया वो गुड मॉर्निंग प्रोफेसर बाला कपूर शंकरदास so now our guests have arrived. I will start with the welcome of the guests. First of all, I will invite Professor Rajesh Misra to come over here He has to deliver the keynote address. And Professor Mala Kapur Shankardass here, just near me. Please. So that we can come to this. You also put आप अपना चेयर सीधा कर लीजिए, तभी आप स्क्रीन दिखाएंगे।
अरे थोड़ा और
Visible. It's visible.
Yeah.
Now visible.
I welcome Professor Geoffrey Player. Virtually, he is online, and very grateful to you for that you accepted our invitation. So we will start with a formal welcome of the guests. And first of all, I invite Dr. Preeti Tiwari. She is a board member of Working Group 01 to virtually welcome our President, ISA President, Professor Geoffrey Player, with a small flower bouquet. You come over in the backside with bouquet.
Okay, sir. So there is limited space. I can stand here alone.
Okay.
Right, sir.
Stand, you
So
stand,
yes.
and you present him virtually. And I will make arrangement so that this will reach you.
Thank you very much. It reached me. This is globalization. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, sir. Now I invite Dr. Shripal Chauhan, Professor Shripal Chauhan from Motherhood University, to welcome Professor Rajesh Misra, the keynote speaker of today. ऐसे उधर से आ जाइए, इधर से नहीं, ऐसे नहीं, उसमें आ नहीं रहा,
आप
थोड़ा सा
आ रहा
हाँ हाँ, या now I invite Aparna Sinha. She is my student long back in Silchar in 2005. She was doing PhD with me, but unfortunately she discontinued, and now she has resumed her research, and she has started research again under Professor Shripal Chauhan at Motherhood University. I request Aparna to welcome Professor Mala Kapur Shankardass, the chairperson of the session. इधर सुनो सर, आगे आगे आओ, आगे।
थैंक यू
Now I request again Dr. Preeti Tiwari to virtually welcome our board member from South America, Vioki, Nelly Vioki. She wanted to come, but due to certain reasons, she could not make this trip. But she agreed to be present virtually in the conference. So, and she is not live also. So we welcome her virtually. Preeti Tiwari, virtually, you present her the bouquet.
She's not here.
Okay. And finally, I request Dr. Shripal Chauhan to welcome Professor Parvez Abbasi, who is the Vice President of the Working Group 01. इधर आ जाओ, इधर आ जाइए, पीछे आ जाइए आप लोग। हाँ, ऐसे ही। हाँ, बस 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 हो गया। I request Sudeep Kaur to welcome Professor Sarvesh Dutt Tripathi. He is a communication manager and the editor of the newsletter of Working Group 01. That's up. The back seat. ऐसे नहीं, पीछे ही पीछे। ओ, त्रिपाठी जी को देना है। Now, the next important event as per Indian traditions is the lighting of the Deepak or lamp in front of the goddess Saraswati. So I request all of you to light the Deepak there. And after that, we'll start the session in a formal way. तो सारा सेटिंग जरूर से actually it could not be covered by video. There are limitations.
Webcam.
From our present side, Professor Rajesh Misra will lead the Deepak. बाकी सब ठीक है चले आप इसमें रख दीजिए। यस Now I request Professor Mala Kapur Shankardass to take the charge of the session and preside over the rest of the events of the session. And
So good morning to everyone. I would begin by saying that it's an extremely important time to hold this conference with so much happening globally and in different nations, in different regions, as well as media becoming strong in certain ways, but also being threatened in many ways. So geopolitics is not only a very relevant subject, but has been changing contours over the years. And there is a lot of relationship between media, nations, the dynamics of it, globalization. And I congratulate Professor VP Singh for choosing this topic as part of the ISA Working Group 1 on Sociology, local global relations. And I'm very happy to welcome Professor
Geoffrey.
Professor Geoffrey Pleyers, whom I think all of you who are part of ISA are very familiar with. And he has a reputation to which we all look forward to at some point of time to achieve that. And we are very happy that you have joined this occasion. And we look forward to your address, as well as I would say that it's a meeting at our national level. We have Professor Rajesh Misra, whom I've known for a very long time, although in between we lost a bit of touch, but we were aware of each other's work. And we welcome his address too, and also the special address by Professor Natalia. And
She's not present.
She's not present here, but we, as part of the program, are looking forward to participation of various dignitaries from the Sociological Association, both internationally and locally. And also, it's a very important event for young researchers. Some of you are present here to participate. So without any ado, I think we will start off with the presentation of the introduction of the conference by Professor VP Singh, who will give you more details of the session's proceedings. And maybe towards the end, I will give my closing remarks.
Thank you, Professor Mala. I am always have been benefited by your presence in my academic events, and she contributed a lot in our past activities as well. So the topic of the present conference is geopolitics, media and nation states, local and global dynamics. The idea of holding this conference came to my mind last year. In fact, I am an observer of the process of globalization for more than 30 years, when the policy of economic globalization was adopted after the downfall of the Soviet Russia, and also the lot of problems with the East European communist bloc countries, and a kind of unipolar world emerged, or it was assumed that now there is only one superpower in the world, and that is United States of America. However, so I have been studying globalization, mass media for more than last 3 decades. And my continuous interest has given me an opportunity to work as first professor of globalization and development studies in India. And I was offered to set one center of globalization and development studies at the University of Allahabad, which is also called the Oxford of the East. So it was my privilege to work there over a decade. And after retirement also, I am pursuing my interest in the field of globalization at national and international levels. So most of the people know me because of the globalization. So my observation on the process of globalization last 3 decades, now we have come in a stage that there are certain processes which are taking place in different parts of the world, and particularly two major conflict, or we can say full wars between between Russian Federation and the Ukraine started more than 3 years ago and not concluded yet. And it has a lot of consequences for the different nation states. And every day situation is changing. Positions of different countries are changing. Another was the conflict, that is Gaza conflict, and that is also a very long conflict, and it has its own history. But in last 3-4 years, again, this conflict has also very intensified. So these two major conflicts, and there are some other conflicts in different parts of the world. So these conflicting situations have affected geopolitical scenario in a very specific way. And now people are of the opinion that it is not unipolar or bipolar world of the Cold War, or unipolar world after the downfall of the Soviet Union as it was assumed. Now a kind of multipolar world is emerging after 3 decades of globalization. If we look on the European situation, European Union economically and politically also become very weak. And now after this 3 years of war, the situation is like that. People say that where is NATO? Where is the power of the NATO? Because the Russian Federation is not listening anyone, not any institution like United Nations, International Code. There are a lot of resolution against Russian Federation, and there is also a lot of issues from both the sides. For example, the violation of the Budapest Pact, then violation of the pact at the time that America will not expand NATO, or NATO will not expand. So all these issues have massed upon, and a kind of situation a geopolitical situation has emerged. And as a student of sociology, we have to look into these processes. Internally, what are the internal consequences and what are the external consequences for the nation states? Every nation state, whether it is trade, global trade, or their internal trade, or imposition of the tariff on different countries by United States uh, new president Donald Trump, these things have affected the whole global politics. And nation states, which were considered the basic political institutions of the modernity, they are now asserting to some extent, also having problems at internal level, because economically they have become weak, politically also they are not very strong to take a stand, and there are certain countries which are in a very poor condition, like a neighbor of India, like Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Nepal. And new social movements have emerged, and Gen Z concept became very popular in this region, that Gen Z will transform the societies. All these issues are now on the surface, and we have to look into this. And I'm very impressed from uh, Professor Pleyers' notion, which he has put forward in last 2 3 years, as far as I know, that the idea of sociology, or I would say a sociology of globalization, is very important today if we want to practice sociology as a student of sociology or practitioner of sociology. So all these things have given me idea to hold this conference. And I am happy that I got very good response from all over the world, and a number of scholars have contributed papers. Although two persons from Russian Federation will join tomorrow because they were not relieved by their institution, and they will arrive today at 3 p.m. So this is in nutshell, and we have 5 technical sessions and about 35 papers, and we have one memorial lecture of late Professor Bijraj Chauhan tomorrow. This we always conduct on the second day of our every conference. He has been my teacher, Professor Rajesh Misra's teacher, and a very reputed sociologist of India, of world fame. Then we have 4 symposiums on different themes. One symposium on the main theme of the conference, and then second symposium is on geopolitics and media coverage, narratives and territorial variations, because a number of my colleagues from media are also contributing in this symposium. Then we have one special session on globalization and Indian languages, the relevance and scope, because Indian diaspora has spread all over the world, and they have brought language and culture from their home to there. So what is the relevance of their own languages, and how they are coping and how they are socializing their children in their native language and culture? This type of papers are also discussed in our session. Then Another symposium is Geopolitical Conflicts and the Emergence of a Multipolar World, Regional and Global Dynamics. In this symposium, we have invited one ambassador of India. He has been in a number of countries, Ashok Sajjanhar, and one defense expert, Major General A.K. Shivaj. These two persons are very popular on Indian TV channels, and they have a very balanced view of the conflicts which are going on in the world at the present, that is Gaza conflict and the Ukraine and Russian war. So these, in a nutshell, the introduction of this conference, and I, on my personal behalf, on the behalf of Working Group 01 of International Sociological Association, I welcome all the delegates to this conference who have taken pain to come over here from different parts of the country, and some delegates have also come from abroad. And I welcome you all, and we have very small financial budget and based on just on the registration, and which is also very moderate. But anyhow, we are managing the conference, because for academics, what is more, spirit is more important than the finance. So with these words, I conclude my introduction of the conference. Next is inaugural address by Professor.
Three.
No, not Math3, no, Professor Player. It is old one actually.
Thank you very much, Professor Singh, for this introduction and the idea of holding this conference and the modalities of it, the session details. It's all very interesting. So we now move on to a very important inaugural address by Professor Geoffrey Pleyers. I'm sure all of you are looking forward to it. I am. So Professor Pleyers, we would like you to begin your session, but just give us a minute. So we are trying to arrange for a proper display of view with your audio as well as visual. Are you getting it connected? Yeah.
Let me share my PowerPoint. Is it possible to share it?
Please share your presentation. He wants to share his presentation.
Share. Huh?
Share.
Yes.
Yes, you can start sharing.
Okay.
Connected. Yeah.
Connect नहीं है, है ही connect इसमें HDMI. Yes.
Okay, do you see me?
Yeah. Yes, visible.
Okay, good. If you see my my PowerPoint and myself, then it's okay. Thank you. Well, first of all, I'm really very honored to be part actually of this conference, and I would like to start by thanking, congratulating Professor VP Singh, because this is the second interim conference organized in New Delhi in just 3 years by him and his team for Working Group 1 of the ISA. This is really this is a very important achievement, and not only that, it's also an example to follow for several other RCs, because you managed to bring together ISA Working Group research committees and ISS research committees. So this is really what should be done by more research committee, and I'm very glad also to that you mentioned it already, but also very important to have speakers and sociologists from Russia, South Africa, and other parts. Of course, I'm very pleased also, although it is virtually, but very pleased to share this panel with Professor Rajesh Misra, who is a very inspiring sociologist, renowned in India and in the world. And it's an honor for me to be on the same panel. and I thank Professor Mala for her introduction. So I have to confess that I wanted to make two comments on Professor VP Singh short but insightful introduction, and then I will probably skip most of the talk I prepared. But first, he mentioned that wars are going on. And is it okay? I see that you.
Yeah.
You see me? Do you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then well, I see that there's some technical challenges there.
No. You please continue.
Okay.
Please continue.
Yes. So
you are audible.
I said that wars are going on today in Gaza, where the Trump ceasefire doesn't work at all. And the news we have from sociologists in Gaza is that it's still massacres every day, food are not reaching. And of course, the war in Ukraine is also going on. With a big question: what can sociology, what can researchers in social sciences do in the context of war? Also, Professor Singh mentioned globalization, and he has been an inspiring researcher on globalization. But what we call global today and 30 years ago is actually very different. It's still the same word, globalization, and we need to develop global sociology of globalization. Well, I see many people moving there. I hope it's still okay. Still, so as I said, in the 1990s, sociology, the globalization was about the westernization. It was about the expansion of the American model. And at that time, countries like India or China were actually not very much involved. China only joined the World Trade Organization in 2003. And of course, it was all about expanding, with a hope also that democracy would expand at the same time. Today, when we talk about the global, we don't say only different things. In some way, it is also opposed to that. Today, global means, as Professor Singh mentioned it, means a competition, always harsher competition between nation states. Nation states are far from disappeared. They are very much present. And this is not what many scholars told us in the 1990s. It is also this idea that globalization would be westernization. This is not happening at all. Today, if we talk about global sociology, the first thing is to challenge Eurocentrism. So we have to challenge Eurocentrism and not to expand just Western sociology. This is the opposite of the global sociology that was sold in the 1990s. Today, global sociology comes from India, from China, from Latin America, certainly from Africa. And then this is this dialogue between different sociologies coming from different parts of the world, and of course, the global south, in terms of population, of course, economics, culture, everywhere, the global south has taken much more importance and is actually dominating the change, the culture as much as the economy today. If you look at South Korea, also from the east. So anyway, it is very different. And there's one more thing, of which actually they are talking very well in the book. I will mention later, the book coordinated by Professor Singh, Globalization, Environment and Culture. If we take in consideration environment, then we see that in the 1990s, globalization was about expanding the world, and the idea that it would be a permanent growth. Today, when we talk about global, it means, first of all, limitations. It's not about expanding. It is about limiting, living together on a limited planet. This has, of course, very strong implication for sociology and for all social sciences. So, just to check, are you really hearing me? I see that there are some technical problems. Is it okay? Should I go on?
He's asking you, are you able
Okay.
to get me on the screen? We can hear you, Professor Player, it's okay. There is some technical issue, but everybody here can hear you clearly.
But you don't see me, or what?
No, there is some
That's
issue with
in the picture.
getting you on the big screen of ours, but we have you on our laptop.
Okay.
And everybody can hear you.
Okay, good. Thank you for this update. So, sorry, no. So you see also my PowerPoint. Can I use it?
Just give us if you can, few seconds. We are trying to accept your share this
Okay.
PowerPoint, and it's just getting connected. Yeah,
Okay, then you answer.
few seconds.
Yeah.
Now
Yes, it's
Everything-
got connected. We can see you. Yes, you can share your PowerPoint. We'll be able to see it, and everybody would.
I am sharing it. So should I stop and start again to share?
No, you please continue.
You can continue, but you can now start sharing. We'll be able to see.
I'm already sharing it.
Yeah, it's shared. Yeah, we can see it.
we can see it.
Okay, very good. And you see me too.
Yeah, we see you. We see your
Thank you.
PowerPoint.
Sorry about this technical issues. So this was just a comment on Professor VP thing introduction that global is something very different today. It's what it used to be 30 years ago, and this is what we have to study. There is also an impact on our sociology. Global sociology and the expansion of Western sociology. Today, global sociology means the challenging Western sociology by decolonial perspective, by subaltern perspectives. So this is very different, which is why I would like to share a few ideas briefly, of 10 more minutes, global sociology as an approach. Because in global sociology, actually the theories, methodology, epistemology are closely intertwined. The way we see the global has also impacts on methodology, or epistemology, and modern data, as I will show. So when the meaning of the global is transformed in such a way, then our methods and our ethics has to adapt, which is what has happened over the last 3 decades. Global sociology is something very different after the decolonial term. As I said, we don't mean by global sociology only the expansion of Western theory. The decolonial approach, strongly rooted in India, in Latin America, and other continents, has transformed it. Sometimes with excesses. It could be parochial localism, to explain local realities only with local concepts and local studies. No, it's not about going back to locality. It's about articulating the scales, which is why the working group 1, local and global sociology, is important. But it's about articulating different scales, combining them. And at the same time, because of course we have to take into consideration, give more space to locally rooted sociology, and at the same time know that whether we want it or not, we all share the same planet. So we need a global sociology as much as, and we should not deny the impact, the insight from more localized sociology. This is one of the big debates in sociology today. Many people oppose the decolonial perspective on this, about this issue, saying it's too localized. And I think in this perspective, what I propose in a text that was published last year in the journal Globalizations, I think we need to go beyond methodological nationalism. Of course, you are all aware of methodological nationalism, that's an old concept, but also beyond methodological globalism. We need to do the 2 things at the same time in our analysis. Methodological global nationalism, of course, we said, and Professor Singh underlined it, nation states are again very important in the world. At the same time, as global sociologists, we do believe that nation states are not always the main framework of analysis, and not always the most legitimate unit of comparison. This international comparison is sometimes interesting, but sometimes not. So the fact that if we look at, for example, the Gen Z movement that was mentioned by Professor Singh, of course, they have a very strong national component, but being national doesn't mean that they are not also global. There's not also a global dimension. The global perspective and the global dimension of movements, of actors, is not opposed to the national perspective. At the same time, if we take social movements, which is my main field of research, we have to avoid to homogenize national movements in international comparison. Most of the time, we would say, well, activists in this country do this and this, and activists in another country do something different. Well, maybe it's not always at the national level that we should focus on attention when it comes to comparison. But the reply to that was first, I would say, mostly in the first decade of this century, but also still today. The reply to avoid this kind of methodological nationalism was what I call methodological globalism. What is it? It is the idea that to expand Eurocentric and West-centric analysis all over the world. The universalization of cases, concepts, and theories developed in the West, and especially written for what they call a global audience. So we all know about Western sociologists who wrote without much fieldwork about global perspectives, based very often on global newspapers. And the question, for whom do we write, is really crucial in avoiding the trap of methodological globalism. Turkish sociologists explain it very well. Global scholars have based their analysis on global newspapers and international institutions reports, most of which do not address local people, but global players, cosmopolitan academics, and experts in international institutions. So we have seen the multiplication of reports of global studies, but that were actually addressing global audience, and most of the time forgetting about the local and national audiences and dynamics. Which is why it is important to state that the global is not only produced at the in global arenas and at the global scale. Local actors have made decisive contributions to the global. In my field work, in my field, social movements, well, the global justice movement, feminist movement, climate justice movements were all built notably by actors that were very locally rooted. They didn't have a global movement. And so the global is also produced by these local actors. This is why global actors, global movements in my case, can neither be reduced to the global expressions, nor, and they're also always more than just juxtaposition of local and national protest, which is why it is so important to combine scales of actions, analysis, and research. No, the second point is to come already almost to an end of my talk. Global sociology in this kind of approach it is important, I think, to avoid both methodological nationalism and globalism, and to take also the global sociology as an approach. And this has to include a series of methodological considerations. But also, it has to go beyond that. It is an approach. It involves, of course, theories, practices, methods, epistemology, but also a personal stance for every researcher who work on in global sociology. Global sociology should be an ethics towards intercultural dialogue. It should be rooted, it is often rooted in intercultural dialogues which are an openness to the other that is at once personal, sociological, and cultural. And this personal dimension is very important. Too often, we have seen global sociology only as objective numbers, economics, which is all very important. But at the same time, there is no good global sociology without the willingness to expose oneself to the risk and hope of losing some of one's certainties and learning from the others. When there is a dialogue, when you read a paper by a sociologist from a very different part of the world, well, you can read it as inappropriate for your work, or you can try to question your own work, your own perspective, by this dialogue with another researcher or with other actors. So, in the text, I will not have time to develop it, but you refer to the text, which is entitled For Global Sociology of Social Movements, published in Globalizations last year. I also provide a series of tools, analytical, epistemological, methodological tools to move from localized research to global perspective, and where mutual learning in dialogues with local actors and researchers is key, as well as this personal commitment and ethic towards intercultural dialogue. And yeah, well, it's come here. So yes, I refer to that also. There's also a video on Sage that where you may consult, and here some reference on this work. And let me just take now 5 more minutes for 2 important announcements. The first one, brief one, in terms of global sociology. Well, sociology in the world today is deeply affected by a series of the rise of authoritarianism, the rise of threats against academic freedom. We see it very strongly in Europe, where some conferences are cancelled by the French government, for example. A conference on Palestine was just cancelled by the French government. So this is a time where we need to work together to strengthen the national and international sociological association. And I would like to encourage you to have a look at the ISA website. There's a presidential corner with many text. Also, please have a look at the ISA declaration entitled A Time for Sociology and sign it. I presented it in Rabat in our last World Forum of Sociology. Over 1,500 sociologists have already, or social scientists, have already signed it. And it is a declaration that that states that we call some of a key value of sociologists in the world today. Because of course, in India, as in many parts of the world, when we read the news, we are often very depressed. Seeing what happened with Donald Trump, seeing how much fake news circulate, well, we just try to do consistent research. Is it worth to spend years to do some consistent research, to have evidence, when this scientific evidence are just so fast dismissed in social media? Well, in this time, it is particularly important to defend a public, rigorous, and global sociology, which is the aim of this text. I will not read it here, but please have a look at this text and sign it, A Time for Sociology, on the ISA website. It's also available in Global Dialogue, the latest issue, which is dedicated to Michael Borrowood, who visited India several times. And this Global Dialogue, it is an ISA magazine. It is also published in Bengali, in Hindi, and in Tamil. So we have it, of course, also in English. And so there are 15 different languages. I hope you will read it. And I would like to specifically invite you to read the section that was coordinated by Rajesh Misra on Indian sociology. So there are 4 articles on Indian sociology available in 15 languages in Global Dialogue. And then, second and last announcement, I'm also very pleased to say a few words about this book, Globalization, Environment and Culture, Emerging Concerns. This is a book edited by Professor V.P. Singh and Deepti Shankar. It's a result of a similar conference. So 3 years ago, Professor Singh managed to organize another Interim conference.
Book love.
Book yesterday.
Sorry? Yes.
No, book.
His book release. Book love.
Should I continue or stop?
Yeah, you can.
You
You
continue.
continue, and
Continue
we'll
and-
be doing the release soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just
So-
a minute. Just a minute.
Yeah, 2
Yeah,
minutes.
please, you carry on with your lecture, and we will
No,
be.
it's over.
Over lecture.
Yeah, we are going to.
We all will also have book, and then you release it.
Okay, so I stop now and then talk about book later.
Just a
Okay.
minute.
I mean, if you want to say a few more lines, it's okay, you can.
No, it's okay. I can definitely present the book a bit later if it's more appropriate. And well, that's it. Then I end here and I save time to say a few words about the book. Thank you.
Can you see us?
Yes.
In the book?
You please also come on the screen.
Yeah, I try. No, I have my side, I guess. I have to stop.
That's good. Okay.
Can you see us?
Yes, I can see you.
Not all. It is the release of the book, not distribution of the book. That's
Yeah.
That's here.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
I would like to say a few words regarding the book. In 2022, we organized a conference that was on globalization and the change in the new world order. And out of that, there were about 24 full papers we received. And we plan to publish these 24 papers in 2 volumes. This is volume 2 of that. The first volume is Globalization and Changing World Order. So, but unfortunately, during the process of publication, the whole script of the that part 1 is lost because of computer crash. So we have to recompose it. So we first published the second volume, and first volume has yet to come. And I hope that in next 1 or 2 months, that will also be ready and it can be released sometime in a national event or in some international event. So I think it is a great contribution of our working group and Global Research and Educational Foundation India, that is one charitable academic trust which also organize this kind of conferences. So we, Global Research and Educational Foundation India, collaborate with different organizations like Indian Sociological Society Research Committee 14 on Globalization and Society, and also ISA Working Group Sociology on Local and Global Relations. We all 3 organize at least 1 conference in a year. So this is the output of that conference we organized in 2022. This much I want to say about this one.
So Professor Player, thank you very much for your enriching talk, as well as being present for the release function of this important book. I think the points you have raised are extremely meaningful and provide a good direction to sociology. And I would like to share with you that in recent time, there is a lot of work now coming up, which is critically looking at many of the older concepts and bringing out a new perspective on global issues, as well as there is lots emerging in terms of globalizing discourses and narrations. And I would like to share with you, in fact, I had written to you 2 years back about my book, which is coming out, which is an edited volume. And we have a global component, we have a regional component, and a national component. Professor V.P. Singh has also contributed. And you will be writing the foreword of that. And I'm not going to take no from you this time.
This will be a pleasure. Sure.
You were busy at that time to contribute a chapter. But the book is ready. Springer is publishing it. And we would be soon coming out. And I'll send you the details of the manuscript
Thank
for
you.
your foreword on it. We have people from ISA as well as various regional sociological associations who have contributed articles on it. So there's a section on global issues, on national issues, and regional developments in various countries in terms of sociological discourses.
Thank
So
you. Thank
I'm
you.
sorry to take this opportunity to bring in my book.
Perfect.
But
Perfect. May I just say one more word about this book?
yes.
As I read it most of the night, it reached me yesterday evening, so I was fortunate to read it. And I think there's some just two words. One is really interesting here is that first of all, Geoffrey is really doing a fantastic work to get 2 books out of our Interim conference, and once again organizing it today. So thank you very much to Professor Singh and to Geoffrey Foundation. But this book shows 2 things, I think. First, that globalization is in global structures, but also in daily life culture. As I said, the global is not only produced in global arenas, but also by local actors and national actors. You will see it in the first section of this book on with the COVID-19, mental health, human trafficking, and of course, a very good, very insightful chapter on relations as vectors of globalization. And then the second part is more specifically focused on globalization and the environment. Also very interesting because you see, of course, that on one side, it's crucial to work on municipalities and local governments and local actors to deal with waste, pollutions, and alternatives. So you have 2 or 3 chapters in this book about that. And then it goes also to the global scales, from the municipal scale to the global scale. And let me just say that a particularly insightful chapter was written by Mayuri Barman on the global and personal challenge that comes with climate change. She writes, and I think she's very right in writing it, that the state of our world is such that not only there is a need for us to reflect on our relationship with the environment, of course, but also there's also a need to reflect on our relationship with each other. And this is, I think, truly global sociology. It goes from the internal self to the global. And she proposed to go from egocentrism to ecocentrism. Very interesting. And I definitely recommend you all to read this book and congratulate, in particular, the 2 editors, Professor Singh and Professor Shankar. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think Mr. Professor V.P. Singh has dyed his collar. If his collar was loose, he would have raised it all up at the appreciation of his work. And yes, we do admire his work. I've been part of many of his conferences, and it has made a difference in thought process and thing. So now we move on. Thank you once again, Professor Pleyers, for your enriching talk, and we'll keep in touch. And now we look forward to hearing Professor Rajesh Misra's keynote address. Again, Professor Misra, you all are familiar with, is a very well-known name in Indian sociology, as well as he's made an international mark. And we look forward to his address. Thank you, Professor Misra. The thing is yours.
Thank you very much. Thanks to Professor V.P. Singh to invite me. I mean, it's typical Professor B.R. Chauhan's style that one fine day he would tell us or tell anybody like me. I mean, very little difference between telling and ordering. To give what he calls a keynote address, but I would like to call initiation address, you can call it. So he ordered one fine morning that you should be giving this. I mean, that was a typical Professor B.R. Chauhan's style, that one day he would come and that after 3 days, there is a seminar and you are going to present your paper.
It's not only you, he ordered me also. You have to chair this session.
I've been a close observer of what nowadays called geopolitics. But I have been a student of sociology. And therefore, I would like to view this geopolitics in relation to nation states and media from a sociological perspective, sociological angle. So, pardon me a little bit sociology in understanding geopolitics. I mean, for me, nowadays, it's not geopolitics. It's a kind of, sometimes we can call it a polycrisis, a crisis of that kind, that order. All of us, notwithstanding we wish or we do not wish, we are in this crisis. And this crisis is made of a combination of aspects or factors. One I would call of climate change and environmental degradation. At the moment, we will not discuss this. There's another is geopolitical tensions. I would love to call it conflict-ridden world order instead of geopolitics, a conflict-ridden world order. And the third, we know well that we are undergoing at so many places social unrest, political unrest, often transforming into civil wars. And it's keep happening. There are many institutions who take note of it. Let me tell you just one, the Crisis Watch. According to the data of Crisis Watch, in October 2025, 12 conflicts, international, either conflicts within nation or international conflicts are going on, and they were creating problems or issues for the world. And in November, now in this November, 13 odd conflicts were ongoing in different parts of the world, and serious kind of conflicts. So 100 of conflicts are there in the world. So therefore, it would be appropriate to call it conflict-ridden order. Now, let me briefly, I mean, because Professor V.P. Singh himself told us the geopolitical situation a bit. I'll just mention some of geopolitical situation in terms of conflicts. So, I mean, as he told us that in the aftermath of Cold War, there was widespread optimism that liberal internationalism and unipolar world order would usher in peace and cooperation. It did not happen, that we know. You mentioned. So, yet this optimism has steadily eroded. Now we see the rise of new hostilities of various kinds at the world stage. And sometimes they are described as clash of civilizations or clash of different worlds, I'm saying. And meanwhile, I'll also point out that there was some important movements, because an expert of movements, our ISA chairperson, I as a president. So I'm reminded of the mass awakening symbolized by the Arab Spring, I would call it. After this Arab Spring, the spread of radical movements challenging states and international power groups of power centers, the revival of old historical rivalries we have seen. And in that way, the world is fraught with tensions, I would say. Now, so we can conclude at the moment, just the scenario, and thereafter I'll come to my point, more sociological, that the 21st century has witnessed regional disputes of various kinds across all continents: Europe, Africa, West Asia, South Asia, Southeast Asia, every part, Latin America. These conflicts expose the limitations of international organizations such as the United Nations. Now people say that the United Nations has become a defunct kind of organization. They discuss, they do not do anything. They can't do anything. So now, the point is that we find these are not only unjust wars. I don't want to give an example of Ukraine or Gaza. They're unjust wars from every point of view. They're genocidal wars. And the people are arguing legally as well as social scientifically that they are genocide. Wars are going on between 2 or more nations. In the cyber warfare, the national elements of cyber warfare, arbitrary economic
Hi, Geoffrey. It's Nelly. How you doing?
Good. I'm just writing to this Professor Singh.
Yeah.
We don't see him.
Okay. We've lost them here.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's see if they will react. It's strange, actually. They seem to have a good technical team, but let's wait for a while.
Thanks for the mapping of global politics. And just to be able to reflect on the impact and also redefining the concept of globalization. Thanks for that. That was so good.
And I see that you work on local governments and during the COVID, is it? Or local actors during
Yeah,
COVID?
yeah,
Oh, that's
yeah, yeah. Mostly
good.
impacted by the global North decisions to implement and how those
Yes,
were,
especially for South Africa, when you were just
yeah,
so good in
and
notably
strange.
in
Yeah.
detection in South Africa to detect a new variation of COVID, and then that's why they just didn't let you travel for that reason. Just because if it would have happened in the North, it would be okay, but as it was in Africa, then you couldn't travel anymore. Yes, it's
Yeah.
so have you written on that?
Yes, we have. I'm just sharing some few of the books that have come out and also some of the work that we're doing with our postgrad PhDs and masters, just to follow the impact of that mostly on marginalized communities and focusing on women and the impact of a closed state. There's one article where I think it's published by the South African Sociological Association, SARS, and it talks about war against COVID and what was it really, the impact and the decisions that were taken from the global north towards the global south and how governments in our spaces have implemented that and the estrangement and the harshness of the lockdowns to local people and
Yes,
lives.
we still need more research on that, because if another crisis happens, let's hope it will not reproduce the same. I sent you a link with a book in open access also on more social movement, but more general on the COVID. It was published a couple of years ago, with also insight from many different countries, including from South Africa. Yes.
Oh, no way. Please invite me when you do these calls.
Well, I didn't know you. I was at a UKZN only once in my life in 2006. At that time, Patrick invited me to
Jesus Christ, I was still a PhD student then.
Yeah, I just completed my PhD. Just 2 months before.
Word.
And then Patrick Bond invited me, and then I went to the ISA.
Who was who was your supervisor then?
So here we are again.
Oh yeah, we are back. We'll chat. Thanks, Geoffrey.
Yeah, sorry for interruption. There was some connectivity issue. We carry on with it with a little bit of pause. And now Professor Misra, please continue.
Thank you. So I was saying that paradoxically, the COVID-19 pandemic briefly united the world against a common calamity. But only for humanity to be flung back into the restricted zones. And we observed that when pandemic was going on, a war between Russian Federation and Ukraine is still ongoing. So, there is another point I want to list, and that point is important. That not only hundreds of armed conflict both within its nation states and between them are going on, but they have grave implication not only for individual nations, but also for humanity and planet. And therefore, not only a time for sociology, but time for planetary can also be pointed out. Alarming situation of nuclear escalation to that extent. We found that between our neighbor, that escalation reached. And we saw recently that between Israel and Iran, the war reached to that stage. So, this is a catastrophic situation, and therefore I call it the conflict-ridden world order. And it needs attention. Need attention from various quarters, from various perspectives. I don't deny the importance of diplomatic view of looking at these things, or through an international point of view to looking at these things. But I would like to think that we should look at from a sociological angle. And can our sociology can provide some insights to this scenario to understand and explain this? I think yes. So don't mind, because I'm going back to the classical tradition of sociology. I know very well, as Professor Geoffrey has reminded us, that there has been a Eurocentric vision and perspective of sociology. But even when the sociology was emerging, growing, there was also a vision which can be called as a global vision. I would like to bring your notice to that kind of vision. I think that my first point, that substantially, from a substantive point of view rather, is a conflict-ridden world. So naturally, we need a perspective to analyze this, which takes into account conflict fundamentally, basically, as a premise. So there is a tradition of sociology of conflict. You know very well, there are many traditions within sociology of conflict. So I'm just reminding you three perspectival trends in sociology, and all of them can help. They are competing with each other, there is hardly any doubt, but they can provide some kind of help us in understanding the situation. They are classical. There is a class theory of conflict. Perhaps that can also provide some insight. There is what used to be called in the last century, 19th century. There was a trend of analyzing society from ethnocentrism, which is called ethnocentrism. I'm reminded of Gumplowicz, the Jewish Polish scholar, who proposed that idea of synergism or ethnocentrism to see the nature of conflicts on the metric, on the pattern, and in terms of groups or races, and in terms of use of state and race, that he provided that. So I would like to remind you people that ethnocentrism. And there is another analysis in terms of power groups or power metrics, the conflict situation. All of them can help us at the moment. I know that they are competing theories, but at the moment, I'm just trying to combine all of these to understand the situation. And perhaps that can help us. So that would be mainly my way of looking at. So just to summarize all this within 15 minutes, I leave some points. I would call it one ethnocentrist theory, another class theory, and a power group theory, of course, which can help us. Now, the first, the rise and growth of ethnic identities world over. Let me remind you that ethnocentrism considers one's own group as the most important and evaluates all other groups based on that standard. The conceptual here. Nothing, you know very well, then one group or one nation, we can call itself as the purest community, the most holy community. Implicit in it, that's what they consider the other community. And that is not true for only Middle East, what is to be called Central Asia, it is true for us, true for everyone, that they can see. I mean, the root of ethnocentrism is rooted in this side. And in the name of nation and nationalism, in terms of nation state, how we treat the other, our neighbor nation, everywhere. I'm not just reminding myself as a part of a nation, as a citizen of a nation, everywhere. So this is what's asked. It often involves judging other cultures based on standards and values of one's own culture. Okay, so this ethnocentrism can manifest in many ways, numerous ways. From subtle biases and stereotypes to overt acts of violence and aggression with other communities. In the context of global conflicts, I think that ethnocentrism can play a significant role in fueling tensions and hostility. When group perceives themselves as a they may feel justified in imposing their beliefs. They may feel justified in imposing their beliefs, and sometimes the values, the way of life, and sometimes the politics also. This can lead attempts to dominate, control, eliminate completely other groups. You can see in Gaza wars and to certain extent in Ukraine. Or sometimes we also want to I mean, our neighbors. Some want to finish our neighbors. So often it also involves some enlightenment and a desire to maintain or enhance the dominance of one's own group over others. Good point. So, in fact, now let me examine in terms of globalization. This can also lead to attempts to dominate, control, eliminate other groups, resulting in the growth of ethnic identity is often a reaction to the homogenizing effects of globalization and erosion of social structures. Class inequalities can add to these ethnic tensions. So, and different classes can play a role in it. I'm not quoting that study, I've also studied it from the middle class point of view and found that the middle class may either support multiculturalism or align with the national movements, or can also support ethnocentrism. So this is one. So ethnocentrism can help us in understanding the situation. The second is I'm clubbing it with kind of authoritarian tendencies emerging, and we can understand nature of in terms of authoritarian tendencies. Around the world, we have found that there is a rise of authoritarian nationalism all over the world. And this is reshaping political landscapes and altering the relationship between those in power and the population of the world. In numerous countries, leaders have harnessed public fears, harnessed economic turmoil, related to economic changes, cultural changes. I underline demographic changes in terms of migration as well. Cultural shifts. Using these concerns to instill fear and claim of stability through displays of strength. And this xenophobic type of nationalism often invokes romanticized vision or idea of the past, honoring traditional values, underscoring the significance of nation states, while concurrently depicting outsiders as opposing voices, as threats to nation. Now, many experts like Fukuyama made strong predictions of the flourishing liberal democracy in the 20th. Some 20%. Instead, we have been observing the thriving of autocracies all around. In the name of democracy, I don't want to go into the detail, you know very well. Even democracies are also turning into elected autocracies. We are experiencing. Even those who claim the most functioning and most ancient democracy, they are going towards that direction. United States in my mind. And as president, he also in my mind. There is no need to cite examples where established democratic political systems are being marked by the rise of authoritarian tendencies. So, in all kinds of society, we are finding this. And contemporary, and the main point is that contemporary authoritarianism frequently arises in democratic nations, whether they are developed or developing, and exhibit authoritarian populist tendencies. And this combines with the personal kind of leadership. A persona of leader is articulated, and this results in conservative kind of nationalism. And ultimately it creates a problem of the nature of nation state, which was considered to be more modern or more democratic. So, I mean, I can go in detail in discussing all these aspects. Authoritarianism and our uncertain times. I would request you. Go into the depth, and we'll find some classes also play very positive role for these kind of authoritarian tendencies. Our studies show that the middle class particularly is tilted towards this kind of support structure of these kind of. So the nature of the state. And I know we know that however much of this expansion has occurred in nations that still like democracy and transitioning from democracies to authoritarian regimes. So that is another point. Now because of these tendencies, we find that there are so many power groups, not only at the national level, but also at the international level, and they are shaping today's world, today's nature of nation states, and nature of geopolitics, and the relationship between geopolitics and nation states. Last point I would like to harp, which is the most, which is the oldest argument of theory of conflict. The class theory of conflict. How this gives impetus to what I call the conflict in world. I argue that the circumstances can be better executed in terms of rising inequalities, class industries, class advances, and class antagonism. How? I find that it has conventionally been maintained that the corporate capitalist class, which I call corporate capitalist class, traditionally called capitalist class, primarily marked by self-profit motive and accumulation, as we know very well. Now, this corporate class has emerged as the most connected, conscious and potent class at the world scale. They are connected. They are potent class and potent. It has captured every institution. I repeat it. It has captured every institution ranging from state to medium. You call it nation state or whatever you call it. From creed to culture, the commanding class at the world scale primarily accountable for for the crisis we are undergoing. If you study in detail, you'll find that, for example, in US, the corporate capitalism is converting to corporate military capitalism. One is a very famous sociologist of the United States, C.W. Mills, reminded us that there is a combination, there is some kind of synthesis, you can call it, combination of various classes. And in this, not only the corporate capitalist class, but the military elite, he called power elite, how these are combined, and how they are influencing policy. So American capitalism has transformed into some kind of military capitalism at the world scale. And this is also said at the moment studies are needed, but there are some studies. They said that they decide the policy of war against nations. Because they have set their arms, they have to. I mean, that kind of nature of capitalist class very much. Perhaps, to understand the nature of the nature of conflicts at the world scale, nature of geopolitics at the world scale, we need to understand the relationship between this class and the geopolitics. And some propositions are that this is the most connected class at the world scale. I mean, they have tremendous, extensive global networks. They link financial, technological, and political spheres across nations. Their reach allows them to coordinate strategies and exert influence on a world scale policy making. They're highly conscious class. Members of this class are acutely aware of their collective interest and power. They actively monitor global trends and leverage information to maintain their dominance and adapt to changing circumstances because the media is under their control. You know well, I don't have emphasized. Even our media is under the control of two great corporates of our country. And through consolidation of resources, capital, and decision-making authority, the corporate capitalist class wields unprecedented economic and social power, shaping policies, practices that affect billions, not one nation, many nation states, and the world. One nation they affect. I mean, going to the depth, we'll find they know from the finance wars, they have their interest, in keeping wars alive. There's another aspect that they have captured the whole institutions. Those institutions which are meant for people, meant for constituencies, has been captured by the success. Their influence permeates every major institution. States, governments, media organizations, education systems now. And even cultural and religious spheres. This allows them to set agendas and control narratives. So my point is very simple, that we should examine the relationship between the corporate capitalist class operating not only within nations but at the international level, and how they are related to world order. And they have global command. As a commanding class on the world stage, they dictate the direction of key global successes, from trade and investment to technological innovations and all kinds of things. So this class driving large-scale industrialization, relentless pursuit of profit is primarily responsible for initiating, perpetuating what we call, or ISA called, the epoch characterized by significant human geology, planet and ecosystems, and geopolitics. So now my simple argument is that geopolitics, particularly geoconflict, should be contextualized, should be viewed from these three classical contributions of words. One ethnocentrism, another class nature of society, how classes influence, and the third is how power metrics, I would call it, at the national level, international level, how they shape the world, and perhaps we can understand the relationship between geopolitics, nations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Misra. I think you'll all agree it's been a very thoughtful or thought-provoking, I would say, lecture or a keynote address. And in some ways, I see it critically continuing the points made by Professor Geoffrey, Player. And for this forum and for this conference, it's been such a meaningful exploration of sociological discourse, and allowing us to critically take forward some of the things which relate to the topic of the conference. Now, there's not much time to each things and have a discussion. Maybe over some break time, we could do that. So to conclude this session, I would just like to comment that there is a need to deconstruct binding concepts which exist in terms of geopolitics, nations, media role, and so forth. And we need to take up the challenge for corrective development. And all researchers should pay more attention to that, which avoid a bias. And I think there's an urgent need at present societal change which is happening to find a balance between the universality of thought processes and the specificity of knowledge, which is being shaped by various geopolitical situations, by the role of nation states, and how media is interpreting or being allowed to interpret things. So I think there is a right time to sharpen your critical angles and your critical thought process. And Professor Misra has, I think, provided a very good base to think deeply about these subjects. And congratulations on a very good lecture, and congratulations to Professor V.P. Singh for choosing a very, very relevant topic and taking forward the mission of his working group as well as his organization, Geoffrey. So I think with that, we'll close this.
Vote of thanks.
Okay, so we have a formality of a vote of thanks, but I'll close my role now and give it to the organizers to take it forward. And Preeti is ready with the vote of thanks, and then you're ready for the next technical sessions.
Yes.
Thank you very much, all of you. And Professor Player, we really appreciate you being with us all throughout the session and for your talk. And thank you so much. We'll be in touch.
आपके स्क्रीन पे नहीं है थोड़ा सा उधर she come Rashmani. Yes. Water adjustment. Speaker.
Honorable Professor Geoffrey Player, President, International Sociological Association, respected Professor Rajesh Misra, sir, keynote speaker of the session, Professor Kapur Shankardass, Chairperson of the session, Professor V.P. Singh, sir, President ISA Working Group 01, Sociology on Local Global Relations, and also Professor Natalia Velikaya, former president, though she is not present, former president of ISA Working Group 01, and all distinguished delegates. It is a great privilege for me to propose a vote of thanks to the luminaries of the interim conference being held for the first time in South Asia. First of all, I am grateful to our ISA President, Professor Player, to accept the invitation to inaugurate the conference and deliver a very thought-provoking inaugural address on global sociology, a topic of great importance in today's transforming contemporary society, both at the global and local level. I express my sincere one of the prominent sociologists of India to discuss a number of pertinent issues on the main theme of the conference, geopolitics, media, and the nation states. That has given a clear, he has given a clear perspective to these issues. I express my gratitude to Kapur Shankardass ma'am, who agreed to preside over the session at a very short notice and very meticulously summarized the proceedings of the inaugural session. Last but not the least, I am thankful to Professor VP Singh sir, who conceived the idea of the conference and presented the conceptual framework and the organizational background of the present conference. And lastly, I'm also very grateful to all the delegates and presented guests for their gracious presence and kind cooperation. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you, Preeti, and the guests who are virtually present in the inaugural session, Professor Player and Vyokaji Nelly Sharpley from South Africa, and Professor Rajesh Misra, Preeti Tiwari, and now I declare this session closed. And there was a tea break of 15 minutes, but we have consumed tea in between. So we have adjusted the time frame. And I'm very happy that very thought-provoking ideas have emerged out of this inaugural session, which will guide different technical sessions and symposium which has to be followed after this. So right now, we will go directly for the technical session 1. So inaugural session is over and technical session 1 will start within few minutes, just after 2 minutes break. So thank you very much.